Good morning and welcome. My name is George James. I'm a professor of philosophy and religion here at the University of North Texas, where my research area is environmental issues and environmental movements in India. It's a pleasure to see all of you. At my last count, I found that there was a dozen countries represented at this workshop. And most of you have come from great distances, and some have endured frustrations in dealing with the American embassy or consulate in securing a visa to come. Some have dealt with hostile immigration officials on their arrival, and not everybody who was invited was able to be here. And we'll be hearing a little bit about that shortly. But you have made it, and we welcome you. And we also hope that you are finding your accommodations acceptable and want you let us know if there's anything that you need. The purpose of this workshop is not to teach you anything new, but to provide a venue in which you can share your experiences and insights with one another. It is our experience that issues that one organization is dealing with is not completely unique. It is our hope that your experience will be of benefit to persons working in grassroots movements elsewhere. The role of the professional philosopher in this context is not one of instruction, but one of facilitation of the insights of others. We are interested in the work of your organization and hearing about the achievements of your organization. We are interested to know about the challenges that your organization is facing and how you are facing these challenges, and what strategies are proving effective. The idea of a workshop of this nature began actually 3 years ago when Dr. Anil Joshi suggested to me the need for an international meeting of grassroots movements of people working for rural sustainability. People are leaving rural areas for cities where they are living under the most challenging conditions. Rural areas need to be revived. People working on these issues will benefit from forming an international alliance of organizations working on the same issues. My initial response was that this is a great idea, but who's going to fund it? That, he said, is a good job for you. So I returned to North Texas with this idea seething in my mind. The first thing I did was to contact Rick Nader, who was then director of UNT International, to find out where the funding might be found. I realized I couldn't do this alone, so the second thing I did was to contact Dr. Pankaj Jain, who was then assistant professor, just had joined us, and is now associate professor in both anthropology and the Department of Philosophy and Religion. He was already doing research on environmental issues in the Western Himalayas, and he contacted Professor Alicia Recruz in the Department of Anthropology, who was doing research of a similar nature in Latin America. Together we began to look for sources for funding from a variety of databases and to present our case to business people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area from whom we might get some financial support. After a year, we were awarded a grant of $20,000 from the Wintergren Foundation for research in anthropology. This was a great beginning. But it was not enough. In fact, we had to request a postponement of a year from the Wintergren Foundation in order to find more money. Following this, we received financial support from UNT International, the College of Arts and Sciences, the Department of Anthropology, and the Department of Philosophy and Religion. The most important support we received was actually in the form of 2 research assistants, Keith Brown, who you have met, most of you, I'm sure all of you have met, and Allison Cornett, who have worked tirelessly to take care of an enormous number of details in the organization of this event. One of the privileges I have as one of the organizers of this event is to introduce you to some of the persons who have supported us along the way. We would like to invite a couple of these people to say a word of welcome to you at this time. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the Acting Vice Provost for International Affairs and Director of UNT International. Please join me in welcoming Amy Schenberg.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I said to Dr. James that I didn't have a lot to say and a lot prepared, simply because my primary role really was to, within UNTI, provide part of the funding, and our work is done with that. And we're very pleased to have been able to provide support for such a worthwhile opportunity to bring together so many different voices to discuss such an important topic. So first of all, I don't know if during this very busy agenda you'll have much opportunity to see UNT and our campus, but this is one of the reasons why we do love to welcome people from so many different countries, is to in part introduce our university to more people, because we think it's a wonderful opportunity for students to come here and study with us. We have about 3,000 international students at the university from a wide range of countries. And we look forward to you taking the message back to your communities and to introduce the opportunities that exist to study not only things like sustainability, but a wide range of things. So if you have any questions about campus or about the university, I welcome you during the small free time that you might have to stop by UNT International, which is right down the road. I also welcome you to explore our campus. We have a beautiful green campus and a real commitment to sustainability, and a growing commitment, I will say, on our campus as well. A number of LEED certified buildings and a healthy environment, especially if you consider a very active squirrel population a sign of a healthy environment. We have that in abundance, including what is probably one of our most famous critters on campus, which is kind of a legend, right? I see some laughter there. Is an albino squirrel family. So the rumor is that you're very lucky if you spot the albino squirrel. So I encourage you all during your free time here on campus to try to find the albino squirrel before you go home. So thank you very much. We welcome you to UNT and look forward to hearing about the results of your discussions. Thank you very much.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Good morning. I am Alicia Recruz, Professor of Anthropology and Interim Director of the Women's and Gender Studies program here at UNT. And it is a real honor to share with you the short story that has brought all of us here together, and a story inspired by the need to learn how to deal with the global challenges that instigate the degradation of our environment, the exploitation of natural resources, and the vulnerability of ecosystems. My professional trajectory as an anthropologist started with the indigenous Maya in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. I lived 2 years in a peasant community where I had to grow corn for my own research, and where I was initiated in the understanding of the human and environmental costs of developmental programs and the effects of migration of peasants from the community, among many other challenges. We are aware that cultures, social groups, communities respond to these challenges differently, that strategies, mechanisms, programs differ according to the ways of thinking of those who create those programs and those who implement those programs. The major characters of this story, our participants, are NGO members, community activists, and scholars with deep community-based roots. They bring to the University of North Texas a wealth of knowledge. They will present, discuss, and have multiple conversations on a broad array of programs and strategies that have and have not worked in their attempt to deal with particular challenges. In sharing their experiences, they also bring us an awareness of the struggles they face in their work. We sent the invitation to participate to Berta Cáceres. Probably some of you, most of you know about her. Is a member of a Lenca indigenous group in Honduras and awardee of the 2015 Golden Environmental Prize for her opposition to one of the Central America's biggest hydropower projects. In an interview with The Guardian, she stated, "We must undertake the struggle in all parts of the world wherever we may be, because we have no other to spare or replacement planet. We have only this one, and we have to take action. Berta Cáceres could not respond to our invitation. She was murdered this March 3rd. We would like to honor her here and dedicate our efforts and outcomes of this workshop to her work and legacy in grassroots environmental activism. And I take this opportunity to take just a moment of silence in her honor and in recognition to her sacrifice. I would like to point out that a major guide in the organization and design of this workshop, particularly inspired by the extraordinary grassroots and community work of our participants, has been the participatory and the conversational approach. As such, we will learn about our participants' work through their presentations, in their panels, and then they will create conversations among themselves to identify differences, similarities, or issues to explore further. Then the audience will join this conversation, addressing questions, raising issues, or sharing comments and reflections. Thus, you, the audience, the public, have a very important active role in this workshop. You are crucial characters of this story as well, of this adventure of this workshop. And as George has already indicated, we could not have reached this moment, this introduction to our story, without the support of those who believed in the role of the academia of this institution of UNT to embrace the breadth of forms of engagement globally. We thank our home departments for the support: anthropology, philosophy and religion, and women's and gender studies, and the support of our college home, arts and sciences. This support has been invaluable. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our dean, the Dean of Arts and Sciences, College, Dr. David Haldeman. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Haldeman.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to see. It's great to see a good crowd here for this important workshop. I want to welcome all of you to UNT on behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences. As George has said, and as you all know, the purpose of this workshop is to bring leaders in the area of rural sustainability from all over the world together to share ideas with each other, but also to share those ideas with our UNT faculty and students. And this is a tremendous opportunity for our faculty and students. So I want to thank you for taking the effort to be here. We are honored by your presence, and we are looking forward to learning from you. I also want to thank Professor George James and Professor Alicia Ray Cruz and Professor Pankaj Jain for all of their hard work in organizing this workshop. As you may know, this year for the first time, UNT was categorized as a Tier 1 research university by the Carnegie Foundation. Gatherings such as this one, in which leaders from all over the world come together to discuss and work out solutions to important problems, are a hallmark of a first-class research university. So I'm delighted to have you here, both because of the intrinsic value of what you're doing and also because what it says about our institution, what it adds to our institution. Myself, I am by no means an expert on the topic of rural sustainability, but I am someone who grew up in a very small town in a very sparsely populated part of this country where the two main sources of employment for the local people were coal mines and prisons. So I understand the importance of what you're here to talk about. I'm glad to be here to listen to part of the discussion. So again, welcome to UNT. Thank you for being here.
of the advantages of speaking fourth or fifth in line, and I have to just say ditto to my colleagues, and I once again welcome with folded hands, namaste and swagatam to the conference, to the workshop. The vision of the workshop, as you heard from my colleague, was first shared to us by Dr. Joshi, who himself used to be a professor of botany long back, and now he's full-time into saving Himalayas, saving forests, and saving rivers. You'll hear many things from him. When we first met, after Weather Grant Foundation's funding, when we first met UT International people, only one sentence we had to tell them that how to get funding from everybody. We just shared one line, that for centuries, I think for 2 centuries now, because of the colonialism, that the transfer of knowledge has taken place mostly from this part of the world to other parts of the world, from the urban centers to the rural people in the world. This is one of the rare opportunities where rural people from across the world come here as teachers, as motivators, as inspirers, as leaders. The transfer of knowledge direction we want to change. This is really a blessing, I think, as the Dean said, everybody else said, that we want to gain from you. As my colleague said, we are not here to teach anything. We are simply your humble students sitting in Americas in these posh buildings and universities, but I think we need to learn a great deal from traditional ecological knowledge, traditional scientific knowledge from across the world. So welcome again. And now we have only 2 days, and there is a lot of things to learn from you, and there are 20 of you. So my job here simply is to request you that you limit, as we go to the next session, we want to limit you to, we want to take that self-imposed limitation that we will have 4 minutes to speak, and at the end of 2 minutes, we'll have a card that Keith or Alison will show you, and then at the end of 3 minutes, so total 4 minutes, we want to limit our introductory remarks. Then we have our keynote speech by Dr. Joshi. Then we have all the panel discussions where we have full discussion. So the next session is just introduction of all our great guest speakers from Ethiopia and Nigeria and Ghana and India and Colombia and Guatemala and so on. So with that, I welcome Mexico, yes, and from Spain, from Canada, and from India. So total, and Texas. So total we have around 10 countries represented, including 3 of us. Yes. So, right. So with that, I welcome the first speaker to share his remarks on his introduction for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and 4 minutes. So Dr. Joshi, Dr. Anil Joshi from India.
Here only I can speak? Sure.
You can actually stand where you're at.
Yeah, that will be wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much. I am Dr. Anil Joshi. I have come from the India northern part. It's a Himalayas we represent. And we have an organization called Himalayan Environmental Studies and Conservation Organization. It is devoted to community. It is devoted to environment ecosystem. And also the technology and science which are relevant to, because we believe that research must be relevant. If it is not, so the relevance for the rural community is a very important science-based relevance, and we work on that. And we develop technology which are essentially resource-based economy to grow, to develop the resource-based economy. We are known for more than that, and we have been doing advocacy for various issues, save Himalayan issues, and also one of the major issues which we have currently taking up is gross environment product. Gross domestic product is an economic indicator of growth of any given country. But what is happening to forest, air, water, soil? We do not have any such measure. So we have worked here in our state I have come from. My state is the first state who is thinking to decided almost that if there is an economic growth measure where we currently stand this year, they will also furnish ecologically, environmentally where we stand, so that ecology and economy can go together. So this is one issue, and then nowadays we are working on Save Villages, one of the campaign that we are doing, because the migration, unfortunately, the people are migrating from rural to urban in search of job, amenities, and so on. So we are doing it, pressurizing the government to take basic amenities, employment opportunities. The Save Villages drive, which is catching a movement in India, especially in the Himalayan. This is all about, and rest of the thing I'll be sharing later on.
Thank you. Next we have Gordon Akon Yamga from Ghana.
Hello everyone. I'm Gordon from Ghana, and I am currently pursuing my PhD here in the philosophy department, and my area of research is environmental justice. But I will be sharing with you something that I did back in Ghana with an organization called the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research instead of Sensudi. Sensudi will be taken care of by another colleague of mine. And at CSIR, I was part of a team that was sort of like, I would call it consulted by another state organization, national organization, to conduct business opportunities identification in rural communities or rural districts. And the idea is that to go to these rural communities to identify and put in place suggestions and programs to develop small and micro, small and medium enterprises. The idea is to alleviate poverty. And as we all know, if we have been following the outcomes of the various summits on sustainable development, poverty eradication is like among the first objectives of sustainable development. And typically, these programs that we are doing in Ghana in business opportunity identification usually tend to emphasize on the business development aspect in terms of identifying cottage industries and other industries that mostly rely on raw materials, natural resources from the communities, which sometimes goes to the detriment of the environment. So the lesson here that I am seeking to bring forward to share with you all here later on today is that in our attempt to sometimes pursue poverty alleviation, poverty reduction, we sometimes tend to be oblivious or to conveniently forget about environmental sustainability, which is something that is also important. After all, sustainability rests on three pillars: economic, social, and environmental. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Shotil Ballestarios from Mexico.
Hello everyone, I am Xochitl Ballestarios. I am of the other part, a scholar. I'm a professor of the University of Quintana Roo, and I have many years working with the Mayan community and in many aspects about rural stability and many projects that have a component that the Mayan people fight to preserve the tradition and many other things. So my presentation is very short because tomorrow I'm going to talk about more about that. So thank you for the invitation, and I hope to share many ideas, many opinions about the work with the grassroots and the other important things. That's thank you.
Thank you. We are just going in alphabetical order. The next name is Ms. Rajendra Bishnoi from India.
I think I'll come here with Hello. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, University of North Texas, Dean, Dr. James, Dr. Pankaj, and team to arranging such a nice workshop, which is the need of world today, and inviting the scholars from all around the globe. Myself, Rajendra Kumar Bishnoi. I am representing my own community, which is Bishnoi. I am representing the Bishnoi organizations. They are working in the field of environment and science, environment and rural sustainability. Not from now, they are working for last 5 centuries, more than 5 centuries. The environment is in our blood, it is in our religion. Guru Jamboji in 1485 founded this sect called Bishnoism, in which he made the environment protection as a necessary rules that we have to save environment, we have to protect trees, we have to protect wildlife, and we have to live a very simple and sustainable life. So Bishnois have been living this life in Rajasthan, India, since last 5 centuries. So the world can learn a lesson from Bishnois and the teachings of Guru Jamboji, which are rules of Bishnoism, which is very necessary. So I came here to represent my community as an organization, and I'm very happy that I will be sharing my views, and I will be having knowledge of your views. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Ms. Bonnie Camara, also from Mexico.
Hola, my name is Bonnie Campos. My English is very bad. My friend Xochitl translate. Okay, mi trabajo es coordinar proyectos que tienen que ver con el manejo costero en zonas turísticas, desde luego, y el objetivo es coordinar planes que estén enfocados a que la población de la costa pueda ser más resiliente y adaptarse a los problemas de cambio climático que estamos teniendo hoy día en los destinos turísticos de Quintana Roo y del Caribe mexicano. Gracias y estoy feliz de estar acá.
Thank you.
Bonnie Campos, she works with in the coast of Quintana Roo with the people in order to involve the people to work with the projects of to share and to give opportunities to develop that people in the coast of Quintana Roo against the tourism, the big tourism and the globalization in that communities.
And to fight against climate change.
Climate change.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. David Garcia from Guatemala. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Garcia, and I work currently with agronomists and Veterinarians Without Borders. I come from Guatemala, from a place called Totonica Park, which is highland forest. My organization at the moment it's a French-based, very small organization helping community organizations, grassroots organizations, develop their own strategies for sustainable development. This involves gaining back or recuperating their way of thinking, their universal thinking, their, like you were talking also, their technological capacities to develop and investigate how can they find answers for the questions that are put in front by development organizations like the World Bank or large investments like African palm oil plantations, hydroelectric dam constructions, and all that development is bringing to us. That puts forward many questions to indigenous peoples about their rights, about who they are, revising history as well. I used to be an anthropologist, so this is very interesting coming back to my roots, sort of, or what brought me to my work. Now I'm more engaged and sort of free to move around between finding money, like you said, so where's the money going to come from? So we have to figure out, thank you, figure out how much or where to find these fundings. We have to figure out how NGOs can speak the language that communities want to speak, or how, for example, government institutions can listen, can listen to indigenous peoples, and it's not very easy because, it's the government is built with a certain paradigms that are not necessarily Guatemala is constructed by colonialism, so you can begin thinking about the struggles that we live, in every part that was colonized we share similar problems. So thank you for the invitation. I think this is very relevant, like you were saying, to bring south to south interaction, and also with the academic world, which I think it's brings up to date these topics, and so hoping to share other thoughts during my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Suat Halila from Tunisia.
Very good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank UNT for including Small Tunisia, and I came to share with you. We have this trendy term in Tunisia: everything is in transition. The democratization paradigm, the sustainability paradigm, and so we're grappling with these two paradigms and being pragmatic. We are hoping to move forward and not backward. So I'd like to later on share with you so many challenges, 9 of them of the new Tunisia, post-revolutionary Tunisia. And the good news is that, good and bad news is that rural sustainability is really peaking forward, and it has a few success stories. And it is underneath this concept of social entrepreneurship. We have some homesteading techniques, a bit similar to what's happening in rural America. So I would tell you that it's a small word, and it's globalization. The local is global, the global is local, and we're feeling it more and more. Anyway, more later.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. Pandurang Hegde from India.
Namaste. I am part of a movement called To Hug the Trees, to embrace the trees, which is called Chipko or Apiko in Kannada. And I've been activist for last 35 years. And we have been able to save the forest, right, in Himalayas, in the tropical forest in the South India. And bringing the policy change was possible in these years. But today, we are facing a challenge where the Himalayan glaciers are melting. All the ice caps in the Himalayas are melting. Glaciers are receding, which is the biggest challenge for the river's ecosystem. And in the tropical forest, which we are trying to save like you, the whole forest is changing. The nature of the forest is changing. And I think this is the impact of the climate change. Glaciers receding, changing forests. And today, the activism itself has become an obsolete word. Because the challenges are enormous. And I think UNT here has brought people to see how these challenges are being addressed and how we can come together to address these challenges. I look forward to this interaction, and thanks to UNT. I was here 12 years before as a Fulbright fellow, and now I am back. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have next Ms. Samshot Kuller from India.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really grateful to UNT for the invitation extended, and I come from a place called Manipur in Chandel district, which is the northeastern part of India, and I work with the Naga Women's Union, which is an umbrella of 16 tribe women which comes and form the union together. Because with the state that we lived in the highly militarized situation and the conflicts that had continued on and on, the women thought that we should find ourselves a space and we should come together, and that's how the union was formed, and we started working on addressing the issues, trying to do peace building and the advocacy for the rights of women, and trying to mobilize the women in the communities. And later we realized that women are, as we believe, we are part of the Mother Earth, and it is our responsibility, and women are the life giver. They also preserve the seeds for the next cropping seasons, and they control the seeds in a way. So we believe that women should also have to work on the land and natural resources based issues, because in the Naga society it is only the man that has the say, because the village council comprises of only the men, and men take decisions whether which area you will cultivate this year, or what would be the area where you have your firewood to be taken, or how you use your land. It is all the decisions that has to be made by men. And so the women decided we should try to dialogue, negotiate with the men so that women can be also involved, because when the environment affects, it is not just the men, but women are to a greater extent, they are more vulnerable and affected. And so that's how we brought in to dialogue with the men, and we have now women who are taken into, and we have 2 of our women who are in the peace building process, because the conflict is still going on, and we need to do the peace building apart from keeping the rural sustained or our villages sustained, by which we can continue living. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have, after some short, we have Santosh. Mr. Santosh Kulagi from India.
Namaste, I'm Santosh Kaulaki from India, South Village, Karnataka. So Keith has allotted me just 4 minutes to introduce myself. So I confine myself introducing myself today, and tomorrow I will talk about my work. Today, standing in the soil of USA, I should remember my 3 gurus from America who whispered in my ears to be skeptical about the development model the world is aping, and which was initiated by USA. The first guru is David Thoreau, who taught me to read about simpling my life. When I read that book when I was 20 years, then I decided not to worry about tomorrow, stay back in a small village, not to have any insurance, nothing about tomorrow. So Thoreau did that. And the second person is Scott Nearing, I think. Scott Nearing of Maine, Scott and Helen Nearing. Have anybody heard of him? He wrote a book called The Good Life in a Disturbed World. I read it when I was 25. He was in Maine. He lived for 100 years. He was a big influence on me. So I stayed back in the village. He taught me about organic farming, self-sufficiency, and he's the second person who has influenced me a lot. And the third person is Ivan Illich, who talked about deschooling society. I decided not to send my children to the school. Till 10 years, they didn't go to school. They were homeschooled. They were brought up in the midst of nature, birds, animals. After that, they went to college. They are doing very well. They are very happy. They are growing with a lot of values. Now, the rural India is facing a big lot of problems. The 5,000 years of sustainable societies is slowly losing its ground in front of the consumeristic society. But I am not pessimistic, I am optimistic. Every day I think we shall overcome, signed by great American Martin Luther King and his group. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, we have heard ST Thoreau for sure, at least here. Next we have Mr. Ravi Kuchimanchi from India and US.
Hi, good morning everybody. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I'm part of a group called Association for India's Development. But before that, about myself, I'm a physicist, so my passion has been particle physics while I was a graduate student in the US and obtained my PhD. So as a scientist, I'm also interested in philosophy. So it's kind of nice that the philosophy department is organizing this meeting. So what our work with Association for India's Development involves is that we connect essentially the highly privileged Indian society here, the people who have come from India here, with the underprivileged and the exploited sections of India. So we kind of are a channel that links the two. And our hope is that when we do that, a model for sustainable development would emerge, because the brunt of the problems, the symptoms, are in the rural areas of India or in the exploited areas in Africa. So these are kind of feeling the brunt of globalization or of a development paradigm that has gone wrong, while the perpetrators of this And the beneficiaries of these are the privileged sections of the society all over the world, including the privileged sections in India as well as here in the US, the Indian community here and the privileged society in the world in general. So our vision is holistic development. Our idea is that just like the problems are interconnected, the solutions of problems are also interconnected. So we believe that therefore working on different issues in India, including questioning our lifestyle choices, trade, fair trade, as well as in creating alternatives in India and having a rights-based approach, standing up for the rights of the people and understanding that rights have to be protected, both environmental rights as well as human rights. That's the big picture. As far as India is concerned, essentially we believe that there are two Indias right now. One of them is the India which is really carrying the India that's so-called shining. So there's the 2% of India which you hear about as an India that is shining, which our current Prime Minister is a very good symbol of. And there is a big India which we call Bharat, which is literally the India that's carrying the India that is shining, and whose shoulders are being crumpled, even as it's trying to do that. And our goal is to make that connection between these two Indias, so that the India that is shining learns that it should not cause the problems that are being seen as symptoms in the India that is carrying the brunt of it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Adam Kolerin from Rutgers, New Brunswick, and from Poland.
I'm actually from Rutgers, Camden. So I'm in rural New Jersey, and I guess I'm somewhat different. I'm an academic, and my interests would connect, I think, in two ways with what you are doing. So first, I study urbanicity, and I just published a book which claims that people are least happy in biggest cities. So for instance, the most miserable place in the US is New York, and rural areas are happier. And that's actually one of the things I've noticed here in Denton, that people seem quite happy here. They seem happier than in, for instance, Dallas. Other way in which my research, I think, would connect is also sustainable behavior. So what we find in happiness research is that sustainability is related to happiness. People who have sustainable behavior, they are actually happy too. And the last thing, I heard here a lot about poverty and alleviation of poverty in other countries. So I would like to point out that there is a lot of poverty in this country. So I work in Camden, New Jersey, and the worst poverty I've ever seen anywhere was actually in Camden, New Jersey. So we have a lot of inequality, and there are many problems that people struggle with in developing countries, actually here in this country.
Thank you. Next we have Maria Martinez from Colombia.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here and thanks for the invitation. My name, as he said, is Maria Lucia Osorno. I work with an environmental NGO called Patrimonio Natural, and since the last years I have been working with rural communities in the Caribbean coast in Colombia that have suffered due to the armed conflict in the region. So we realized that in Colombia at least 1.6 million still use firewood to cook. So we saw that this was a really big health issue. So we gathered together with a designer and the community, and we built up a collective stove. And we were promoting a conservation strategy that aimed to include people in environmental conservation. So our main purpose was to include people in nature conservation and to redignify life in rural areas. Because nowadays we see that people associate rural areas with there's nothing to do there, life is not sustainable back, so people are moving to cities. So what we were trying to do with the community was to make them happy with what they had and how to use their knowledge and how to use their tools and how to get involved with their forests, because currently 92% of the Colombian tropical dry forest has disappeared. So we are also trying to incentivize the use of these tools in order to reduce climate change. So that's basically what I'm going to explain to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Next we have Emmanuel Opoku from Ghana.
My name is Emmanuel Opoku from Ghana. I'm also a student here at UNT pursuing my PhD. I worked with the Center for Sustainable Development Initiatives for so many years. Working there, I started off as a volunteer, Then I went on to manage a project called Quadrigap, which means Community-Driven Gender Advocacy Project. And the project was essentially to try to take away or to sensitize communities to do away with practices that discriminate against women in terms of their ability to hold and own lands and be able to have lands for farming. So that is what I'll be expanding on in my presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Maria Quintana from Colombia. Maria Quintana from Colombia. Oh, sorry.
My name is Angelica Guerrero. I'm from Bogotá, Colombia, and I'm here representing an organization that's called Corporación Otra Escuela. We work in peace education and creative conflict transformation through arts and theater and game-based learning. We believe that sustainability needs a very strong social fabric base, and that's what we do with communities and teachers and young people, to work with connecting with emotions, recognizing and humanizing everyone else, and also deconstructing the image of the enemy, because in Colombia we have a very strong violent history, and we see each other a lot as enemies. So that's what we do. We just play and connect with our emotions and use that as a base for sustainability for long term. And that's what I will be explaining more this afternoon.
Thank you. Yes, we have from Mariana from Colombia also.
Good morning, my name is Mariana and I'm from Colombia. I'm an anthropologist and biologist, and I did a master's in holistic sciences in a sustainable university in the UK called Schumacher College. I'm currently working with Gaia Amazonas Foundation with anthropologist Martin von Hildebrand, coordinating a macro-regional initiative that aims to consolidate eco-cultural mosaic from the Andes to the Atlantic, Andes Amazon Atlantic, taking into account that the Amazon has a very important role in the regulation of the climate of the planet. And so we work with indigenous communities in territory and environmental issues and securing the indigenous communities' rights to land. Also, 4 years ago, a huge gold mining company arrived to the town where my father grows rice in another region of Colombia. And so as an anthropologist, I felt the need to get involved with the community that I had grown up with, and I became an activist. And currently, I am the regional coordinator for Latin America for a global solidarity network called Yes to Life, No to Mining, which aims to connect communities at a grassroots level that are facing extractive projects. So I'm gonna share with you tomorrow how it all started with a simple action of sending solidarity letters between communities, because as you said, many of the issues that local communities address are common to the whole world. And we felt the need for these communities to come together and share their strategies. So I am very happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation, because I resonate with a lot of the things many of you have mentioned. So I'm very looking forward to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have from India, Mr. Sudhirendra Sharma.
Thank you, and good morning to all of you. Life is a big paradox, isn't it? That we all live an unsustainable lifestyle and we come here to discuss rural sustainability. Now, I have been, for the last 30 years, I have been in the business of sustainability. When I say business, I use it very cautiously. I started, when I passed out doing my PhD in environmental science, I had the lofty idea of transforming rural lifestyle and teaching the rural people how to live their life better. Something which George mentioned in the beginning, that we are not here to teach anybody, but we began with the wrong notion, romantic notion of teaching rural people to behave, to live the way they should, brought in a lot of technology, a lot of resources from the government agencies, from intergovernmental agencies and so on. 10 years. And then we thought, enough of this, let's sit back and find out what has been impact of our work. And we realized that the change that has happened in rural areas in India, in Himachal Pradesh, where I worked for many years, realized that this change was not because of our doing. This was because of some other extraneous factors, which we do not know, which we haven't understood, which we haven't applied. So I said, enough of this, we called it a day. And I switched off from my NGO work at that time, moved across with many NGOs across India, activists across India, trying to understand the dynamics and what works and what doesn't work, how the society behaves, how the society relates to the external factors, what are these changes happening and why are they happening. It's a long learning process that I have been engaged in. Was part of the activist movement in India, trying to understand why they're opposing the big projects and so on. So this has been a learning process. I'm still at it, and I'm still living a very unsustainable lifestyle in Delhi, and hoping one day that there will be sustainability brought into our lives in some way, somehow, that I don't know. However, I started as an NGO, never went into academics despite those academic degrees, but continued to do semi-academic work all my life, have been publishing papers and books and so on the issues which still confront me, the issues still I can grapple with, no answers in sight for me, and that gives me more zeal to keep on working, moving forward in understanding the nuances of living, modern living, vis-a-vis the traditional living. So from NGO, I moved out totally, and I am today NGI, which I call non-governmental individual, which is much more independent. It's an independent space for you. You can criticize the state of which you are a part. You could be critical of the goings on within in academics, whether in the NGO world, in the development sector, and so on. That gives you a lot of liberty to be an independent person, to contribute to society and to learn from society. At this juncture in my life, which is like third decade, so to say, after my passing out from the university, I'm engaged with large investment projects in India. And this is not to boast about my involvement, but let me give you a rough figure about $1 billion of projects I'm currently involved in, trying to see how effective this lending from international donors could be effective in the rural area. Although it's a big challenge to be able to influence any of those, these are big monolithic institutions. But I'm again back to the rural area where I started 30 years ago. I'm back to rural areas with large numbers and interacting with them again and trying to see that what these investments or the larger, so-called larger images of sustainability would be able to bring to local people. I doubt if it will be sustainable, but I still hope that someday it will be sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next we have Ernesto Chi from Guatemala.
Buenos días, perdonen, no hablo inglés. Soy Ernesto Chu. Voy a hablar y luego me traduce.
You have Anita who will help us translate from Spanish to English.
Vengo de Guatemala, en la zona norte. Soy indígena quechí. Represento a SANC, una asociación indígena que nació hace aproximadamente 16 años, después de varios años de las ONGs que ofrecen desarrollo a la población y que no cambia nada. Entonces nace con esa preocupación y uno de los trabajos en que se enfoca es proponer soluciones a los problemas locales de la población indígena quechí. Nos enfocamos en 3 trabajos: en la parte de gestión de los recursos naturales para ser manejado por la población indígena bajo su filosofía de vivencia local, y después la producción de las tierras que tienen que estar en manos de las poblaciones indígenas. El otro tema es, para lograr todo eso es muy necesario el fortalecimiento de la organización propia de los pueblos quechís en su lógica, en su filosofía, en su cosmovisión de vida. Entonces es otro de los trabajos fuertes que se hace. Y por último, la parte agrícola, que se busca cómo impulsar un modelo económico basado a una agricultura familiar con conocimientos ancestrales. Nosotros como pueblo maya hemos trabajado la tierra por miles de años y no necesitamos conocimientos importados para poder producir estas tierras, sino rescatar lo nuestro. Entonces sería lo que quiero comentarles. Gracias.
I have the pleasure of translating for Ernesto. He comes from Guatemala in the northern region. He is a native Quechí, and he's the general director of Aproba Senk, and this is an organization that was created after outside organizations came in and without success. They created this organization, and it works directly with the Native people to sustain their traditions as well as maintaining the land. So as Mayan people, they feel that they have had many years of maintaining their own land, and they don't need third parties to come out. So today he's going to be presenting about that and solutions that he's found for those issues.
Thank you. And Anita is our own UNT student in the School of Music.
Yeah.
We have two people who will be joining us on Skype. We have Ms. Patience Ayamba from Ghana, and we have Mr. Lil Karki from Nepal. So when the time comes, we'll have a Skype session with them.
We also have our Nigerian visitor taking Dr. Khan's place.
Oh, sorry. We have one more from Nigeria, Mr. Edet Ekpenyong from Nigeria.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Edet Ekpenyong, representing the Peace Corps of Nigeria. Originally, the national president of the Peace Corps of Nigeria was supposed to be there. He's the one that was invited, Dr. Dixon Akko. So we have our bill right now in the National Assembly that's waiting to be passed into law by the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So that's why I had to step back and say, Miami is Deputy National Commandant of the Peace Corps. We're really grateful to be invited for this very important seminar. And we believe that with this experience that we're going to gather here, we'll be able to also do something to sustain our environment, especially the urban areas in our various countries. We always know that people seem to migrate. When you are able to migrate from urban society to the rural society to the urban areas, it seems that you have made it in life, especially in the developing countries. So right now, I think we have to focus more on how to sustain those rural areas, because when we sustain the rural communities, we'll be able to sustain our tradition, because any society that lost the tradition, it means they have actually been able to lose the original content of the people that makes up that society. So sustaining that society at that level is also very important, because that will be able to provide the natural resources that is needed to even develop the urban areas. So rural sustainability workshop that has been put up by you is very important, and we hope to really go back to our own country and also see how we can be able to extend this knowledge on how to develop and sustain our rural areas. So by tomorrow, I will be making the presentation of the National Commandant of the Peace Corps, and we're going to talk about a lot of things that also is affecting Nigeria right now, because we have a lot of rural areas in Nigeria. So I want to thank you once again for inviting Peace Corps Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everybody for keeping within time. We have a lot of time left now.
Yeah.
I will bring the Peace Corps.
Well, I guess I'm going to suggest that Allison and I introduce ourselves to everybody. Yes. And then maybe, because we do have a bit of time, that we go ahead and we try to generate a little bit of a conversation, because we don't want to move the keynote speaker up, because people may be coming here at 11 o'clock for that. So Allison, do you want to say what you're up to and who you are? Sure, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison Cornett, and I am the research assistant for the Department of Anthropology. And I was brought onto this workshop in August, and it has been a great pleasure to get to know each and every one of the participants. I did the majority of the correspondence, and it was really great to connect with everyone around the world and to find that we all are interested in the same issues and that we can all learn from each other. And I'm just really excited that it's finally coming to fruition and that we're here and that all of you were able to make it. And I'm just really excited to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Listen.
My name is Keith Brown. I'm the research assistant for the Department of Philosophy and Religion. I was asked to come on board late last fall to help out with the final organizing process. I describe myself normally as a philosopher, as a devotee of Socrates, but I also say that I am a rainbow nihilist, or a hopeful nihilist, meaning that just because the whole world is slowly spinning towards a cold, dark place doesn't mean there won't be a lot of beautiful rainbows along the way, and that we can't make people happier, and we can't like make the world a little bit of a better place as all of that spins inevitably to a close. So I want to thank actually everyone for inviting me to be involved in this. I had spent a little bit of time before I became an academic. I did time in as a monk with the Order of St. Augustine in Puerto Rico and Mexico. And I decided that I couldn't handle the vow of obedience, so I opted out of that. And then along the way, I worked from being a janitor to managing a janitor thing, to being a waiter, to managing the restaurants I waited at, to working for a mortgage company, working for a law firm. And then I decided to come to UNT and become an academic after I met my mentor, Richard Owsley, who was one of the founders of the department here when I came to UNT. And I picked up a life of philosophy. So mostly all I do is wander around campus and talk to young people about how the world could be a better place. And so it's really wonderful whenever we do things like this, I think, and we bring people here so that the knowledge flows are not urban to rural, but rural to urban, right? Because as a Socratic, I don't actually like getting outside the city, but I'm also very, very aware that the city has to rely too much on taking advantage of the rural. So I think this is a really wonderful project, and I'm so happy that UNT is a host of it, and I'm so happy that all of you got to come here and that we're possibly on the verge of starting something annual and wonderful where we keep the flow of information coming in a democratic way. Thank you very much.
For everything, backbone and the pillars of the whole event.
I would suggest,
yes,
since one of my points in the presentation, introduction, was that those who are here in the audience have and will have a very active role in this workshop. We would like to learn from you, those who came here for the conference, to learn from the presenters, from the participants. Who are you? Where are you coming from? How do you care about this?
It's a great idea. So yeah, everybody can mention their name, their country of origin maybe, and their interest in rural system.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, I think. Why don't I start with my father, who is sitting here?
Namaste. I am Esad Jain, Sukandra Jain, father of Pankaj Jain. I am B. Electrical from Karnataka in 1967. Presently, I am working in a textile